You're watching The Buck Stops Here and I'm Barkhadat. On the program this evening, we continue to take a close look at Tarun Tejpal's petition in the court, which has now seen him moving from self-declared atonement to actually slandering the young journalist who has charged him with sexual assault. Tarun Tejpal is now booked on charges of rape. But in an almost complete about-turn on all that his emails to the young journalist conceded, he is now essentially slandering the victim, and he's also taking refuge behind the charge of political bias. Some would say behind the fig leaf of political bias, today claiming that the BJP was out to target and malign him. Our big debate on the program today is Tarun Tejpal playing political victim, and is this politicization of rape his last resort? That's coming up as the BJP hits back sharply.
खिसियानी बिल्ली खंबा नोचे, बीजेपी के लिए वो काम नहीं करते। वो किन उद्देश्यों से प्रभावित थे जब उन्होंने ये हरकत इस पर दिमाग लगाएंगे तो शायद ये बयान नहीं देंगे। उनको तो ये सोचना चाहिए कि उनके ऊपर किस किस का प्रभाव था, किस किस तरीके की जिंदगी जी है कि जो इन्होंने इतनी घिनौनी हरकत की।
Also on the Buck Stops Here this evening, the Talwars, Rajesh and Nupur Talwar, found guilty by a court of murdering their own daughter, have been sentenced to life imprisonment. It's a judgment that continues to be deconstructed. It's a judgment where questions continue to be asked. But for the moment, the judge is unequivocal. Even if the evidence is circumstantial, the judge believes the evidence is enough. The latest on the life sentence for the Talwars coming up later in the program this evening.
We are going to the higher court. What we can do? We have nothing to do. Just sitting and crying and what to do now? Remembering Arushi, Nupur, Rajesh, such innocent people.
Let's get started now with our top story this evening. We're looking at what we're calling the terrible twists in Tarun Tejpal's own tale. That's right, these twists are not the media narrative's contradictions. They're not even the contradictions in the statements and the allegations made by the journalist at Tehelka who first charged him with molesting her. These are the contradictions in Tarun Tejpal's own tale, his own telling of his own story. And these contradictions have of course surfaced as Tarun Tejpal has applied for anticipatory bail in the Delhi High Court, and we're quoting directly from his petition. A petition that anyone in fact who bothers to actually just have a basic read of the emails he wrote internally and the petition he's placed in court today, there are startling contradictions, and that's why we're saying these are the terrible twists in his own tale. Let's take a look at them. Today, Tarun Tejpal says this is a pre-planned conspiracy, the charges against him. In that case, in his internal email, what did Tehelka's erstwhile editor-in-chief promise to do penance for? If this is a conspiracy, why was he promising to do penance? In his email, Tarun Tejpal actually admitted what he called the journalist's clear reluctance when he tried to attempt a sexual liaison. This is the language used by Tarun Tejpal. Now, in his petition, he's claiming that these charges are a false version of an intimate encounter. That's the phrase he's using, a false and concocted version of an intimate encounter. And last but not the least, Tarun Tejpal in his own email said this was a shameful lapse of judgment. Today, his petition is claiming that this was light-hearted banter. So as you can see, these are the twists in Tarun Tejpal's own telling of the tale. On the program today, we'll be asking whether it is his last resort to actually hide behind the fig leaf of politicization, because his petition says that the BJP is out to malign him, it's out to target him. But before we introduce our panel this evening, my colleague Tejas Mehta is joining us from Goa. The Goa police there is unfazed by the allegation of Tarun Tejpal in the Delhi High Court here that he does not trust the Goa police. He's accusing the BJP government there, Tejas, of targeting him. The Goa police is continuing with its job and it's saying, we know what we're doing. They've recorded the statement of the journalist today. Your sources are telling you that this corroborates the complaint that she made in writing, and the Goa police is now saying that Tarun Tejpal must not be allowed to leave the country. Go ahead with the details you have.
Well, Barkha, it is settled law that in a rape case, the statement of the girl to the police is absolutely paramount. In fact, many judgments have said that that the medical proof is not often required. What the girl says, that is what is really important. Now, what our sources are saying is that the allegations she leveled in her personal email to Shoma Chaudhary, the managing editor of Tehelka, those allegations she has corroborated in the formal complaint itself, and that changes the case completely, and of course goes against Tarun Tejpal, because in his petition, if you remember, he has said that the Tehelka journalist has not made any formal complaints, so this is unprecedented how a state can file an FIR, but that has now changed. So what happens tomorrow morning at the Delhi High Court? The Goa police can say, look here, we have got the statement from the victim itself, from the girl itself, and that of course goes against Tarun Tejpal. What they also will use against Tarun Tejpal are these flip-flops itself. Now, what very often, we have read in judgments, what police also say, the first response of a person is the natural response. What comes later on is actually the afterthought to protect oneself, and that again is an argument which the police is going to use even when the trial begins. When the trial starts, this statement, of course, comes once again into picture. It will help the police immensely, because this is not just an email which is floating in the Tehelka servers, but now it is an official document of the investigation itself. So it changes the case completely for Tarun Tejpal. Of course, the alibi which he will insist is the lack of CCTV cameras which could have recorded what really happened inside, but that the police say is absolutely not required, because what they really have is the girl's statement, and that is far more crucial than anything else as far as this case is concerned.
Tejas Mehta joining us from Goa. Thanks very much. The Goa police has recorded the journalist's statement, and Tarun Tejpal says he does not trust the Goa police. The court will be hearing his petition for anticipatory bail tomorrow. Thanks very much. What has really disturbed those of us who've been following this story is that Tarun Tejpal in his petition today has completely contradicted everything that he said in his internal emails, accessed not just by NDTV but by media organizations across the country. In fact, he is arguing in his petition today, and let's bring up those key excerpts from his petition. He is arguing in his petition today that the BJP is out to malign and target him. He describes himself as somebody who has always fought against right-wing politics, and he is arguing that he is being punished for this. Is Tarun Tejpal correct to politicize his own case? What about the many contradictions that he has made in his own account? What about the fact that his emails are completely different from his petition today? And what about the fact that Tehelka, that has been faulted by almost everybody for failing basic feminist principles in how it handled this complaint, is now resorting to that old, terrible thing of slandering the victim? That perhaps is the most tragic aspect of what has happened. Let's introduce our panel this evening. We're joined by Jayanti Natarajan, Environment Minister in the government. We're also joined from the BJP by its senior leader Chandan Mitra. From Mumbai tonight, joining us is author and well-known commentator Shobha De. And with me in the studio, Padma Rao, one of our senior-most journalists and commentators. And also with me in the studio, Kavita Krishnan. She's been one of the most outspoken voices since this controversy and this charge of rape first erupted. And before I come to the politicians, Shobha De, I'd like to start with you. When you see Tarun Tejpal saying the BJP is out to get me, and then has a petition that says the girl continued to party, she didn't complain, and it just feels horrible actually to read, because you never thought that Tehelka, that championed itself to be such an advocate for how such complaints should be handled, would actually fall back on that time-tested trick of slandering the victim. His petition is doing that, but he's also saying, I can't get a fair trial in Goa, the BJP is out to get me. Shobha, your comments before I take it to the politicians.
No, it's not at all surprising the position he's taken, because it's damage control at its shabbiest. And even the skimpy support that he may have attracted earlier from his drinking buddies and cronies will disappear, or I hope it does. They have better sense than to try and defend the indefensible. In this case, the cheapest trick in the book that a lot of men use. So from being the villain, he's trying now to project himself as a victim. And in sort of Bollywood parlance, it's suddenly like the hero, from being a hero becomes a zero almost in an instant. Now, none of this actually, Barkha, is surprising me, because there is in a way, a track record of, what shall I say, unacceptable behavior in the past, except that no one spoke about it. It was one of Delhi's best kept secrets. It was one of media's best kept secrets. But it should astonish no one that he's trying to politicize something which he himself has talked himself into a corner, not just talked himself into a corner, he has incriminated himself. Someone who was a sting specialist should have known better than to have this in the, over SMS, in writing, or over emails. That apart, the case is not whether the BJP is out to get him or not. The case is whether the man has committed a criminal act or not. Yeah. Now, whether it's the BJP that's pursuing it, and I would like to believe that whichever government was in power in Goa, whether it was the Congress government in power, would have followed exactly the same principles in law. So it's not about one political party going after someone. It's about what the law states, and the law is very clear about this. So no one should have spared him, not even the Congress, if he had any leg to stand on. That is my position.